The cake sat untouched, a single candle flickering in the dim light of the empty restaurant. Eleanor Wright, worth $4.7 billion according to Forbes, had never felt poorer. What she didn't know was that the strangers about to walk through the door would change everything, and uncover the secret she'd been hiding for 30 years. Rain pelted against the windows of Luciano's, the upscale Italian restaurant Eleanor had rented out entirely for her 50th birthday. She'd told herself it was for privacy, but the truth was far more painful: there was no one to invite. The staff had been paid handsomely to leave her alone with her thoughts and the chocolate ganache cake that would feed 30 but would barely be touched by one. The sudden jingle of the door caught her off guard. A man, soaking wet and clutching the hand of a small girl wrapped in his jacket, stumbled in from the storm. "I'm so sorry," he called out, not yet noticing Eleanor in the corner booth. The sign said open, and we're desperate to get out of this weather. Eleanor should have been annoyed at the intrusion. Instead, she found herself staring at the little girl's face. Something about those eyes seemed hauntingly familiar, stirring memories she'd fought decades to suppress. Who were these people, and why did she feel like she already knew them? If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit that like button and subscribe to see more content like this. The connection between Eleanor and this unexpected father-daughter duo goes deeper than you could possibly imagine. The maitre d' appeared, clearly flustered. "Sir, I'm terribly sorry, but we're closed for a private event tonight." Eleanor raised her hand. "It's fine, Antonio. Let them stay." The words left her mouth before she could consider why she'd said them. The man looked over, noticing Eleanor for the first time. His eyes widened slightly at the elaborate setup, the empty tables, the birthday decorations, the untouched cake, and the solitary woman sitting amidst it all. "I don't want to intrude on your celebration," he said hesitantly. "There's no celebration," Eleanor replied, surprising herself with her candor. "Just me." The little girl, no more than 7, peered out from behind her father. "It's your birthday?" she asked, her voice small but curious. Eleanor nodded. "Then why are you all alone?" The question hit Eleanor like a physical blow. The man quickly admonished his daughter. "Lily, that's not polite." "It's a fair question," Eleanor said, feeling something crack inside her, a wall she'd spent years building. "I'm alone because when you spend your life chasing the wrong things, you end up with everything and nothing at the same time." The man studied her face, a flash of recognition crossing his features. "You're Eleanor Wright." She braced herself for what typically followed, the awe, the immediate shift in demeanor, the subtle calculations of what she might be worth to them. Instead, he simply extended his hand. "I'm Jack. This is my daughter, Lily." What Eleanor didn't realize was that Jack wasn't just any single father. His connection to her past would soon unravel everything she thought she knew about herself, and reveal why Lily's eyes seemed so familiar. The restaurant staff, sensing Eleanor's change in mood, brought menus for the unexpected guests. Jack initially protested, but Eleanor insisted. "Please. It would be nice not to eat alone. For once." As they settled in, Eleanor found herself opening up to these strangers in ways she hadn't with anyone in years. Jack explained he was a high school history teacher, raising Lily alone since his wife died 3 years ago. "Cancer," he said simply, the pain still evident in his voice. Lily was 4. "I'm sorry," Eleanor said, meaning it more deeply than she'd meant anything in a long time. "Daddy says Mommy is in the stars now," Lily offered, coloring on the paper placemat Antonio had brought her. "So she's never really gone." Eleanor felt her throat tighten. "That's beautiful. What about you?" Jack asked. "I know the basics from the magazines at the grocery checkout, but I'm guessing there's more to Eleanor Wright than business acquisitions and charity galas." Eleanor laughed, a hollow sound. "Is there? Sometimes I wonder." She twirled her wine glass, watching the red liquid catch the light. "I built an empire from nothing. 15,000 employees worldwide. More money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. And yet here I am, alone on my birthday. Nobody should be alone on their birthday, Lily declared with the absolute certainty only children possess. Jack smiled at his daughter, then looked back at Eleanor. What about family? Eleanor's expression shuddered. None to speak of. Everyone has family, Lily insisted. Lily, Jack warned gently. It's okay, Eleanor said. I had a family once. Parents who didn't understand why their daughter wanted more than the small-town life they had planned for her. A sister who... She paused, the memory still raw after all these years. A sister who needed me, and I wasn't there. The confession hung in the air between them. What Eleanor didn't say, couldn't say, was how her sister's desperate call had come the same night as the meeting that would secure her first $1 million contract. She'd promised to call back in the morning. By morning, her sister was gone. What Eleanor couldn't possibly know was that Jack had his own secrets, and the reason he'd come to this particular restaurant on this stormy night wasn't entirely coincidental. If you're invested in Eleanor's journey, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. The connection between these three souls is about to take a turn that none of them could have anticipated. As the evening progressed, Eleanor found herself charmed by Lily's unfiltered observations and Jack's quiet strength. When Antonio brought out her birthday cake, Lily insisted they sing to her, and for the first time in years, Eleanor felt tears spring to her eyes, not from sadness, but from an unexpected warmth. Make a wish. Lily commanded as Eleanor prepared to blow out her candle. Eleanor hesitated. What did one wish for when they had everything? Or perhaps the better question was, what did one wish for when they had everything except what truly mattered? She closed her eyes and blew. When she opened them, Lily was beaming at her. What did you wish for? The little girl asked. Lily, you're not supposed to ask that, Jack said. If she tells, it won't come true. Eleanor smiled. It's okay. I wished for. She paused, surprised by her own honesty. I wished for a second chance. Jack's expression changed subtly, something unreadable passing across his face. Second chances are rare, he said quietly. But not impossible, Eleanor replied. As they shared the cake, Eleanor found herself telling them about her childhood in rural Pennsylvania, her desperate scramble to escape, her meteoric rise in the tech industry. She spoke of her first company, sold for millions when she was just 26, and the empire she'd built since. What she didn't mention was the price she'd paid. The sister who'd spiraled into addiction after Eleanor left town. The desperate phone call. The funeral she'd attended in dark glasses, standing apart from the small gathering, her presence unwelcome by parents who blamed her for abandoning them all. You've accomplished so much, Jack said, genuine admiration in his voice. But I get the sense it hasn't brought you what you hoped. Eleanor looked at him sharply. And what did I hope for, in your estimation? The same thing everyone hopes for, he said simply. Connection. Purpose. The feeling that at the end of it all, your life mattered to someone besides yourself. His words struck with uncomfortable precision. Before Eleanor could respond, Lily tugged at Jack's sleeve. Daddy, show her the picture, she whispered, not quietly enough. Jack's face flushed. Lily, not now. Eleanor's curiosity was piqued. What picture? Jack hesitated, then reached for his wallet. I wasn't going to do this tonight. I was going to call your office, try to set up a proper meeting. He pulled out a worn photograph and placed it on the table. But maybe this is better. Eleanor looked down at the photo and felt the world tilt beneath her. It was a picture of two young women, arms around each other, laughing in front of a small-town diner. One was unmistakably a younger version of herself. The other was her sister, Sarah. Where did you get this? Eleanor whispered, her fingers trembling as they reached for the photograph. Sarah was my wife's best friend, Jack said quietly. Before the drugs took hold. The revelation hit Eleanor like a physical blow. All these years, she'd carried the weight of her sister's death, the guilt of not being there when Sarah needed her most. And now, sitting across from her was a man who had known her sister in ways Eleanor never had the chance to. What Jack said next would change everything, and reveal why he'd really sought her out tonight, on her birthday of all days. This story is about to take an unexpected turn that will leave you breathless. If you're invested in Eleanor's journey to redemption, make sure to like and subscribe. Before Sarah died, Jack continued, his voice steady but emotional, she wrote you a letter. She made my wife promise that someday, somehow, it would find its way to you. Eleanor couldn't breathe. A letter? After all this time? Jack nodded. My wife kept it safe, planning to fulfill that promise. When she got sick, she passed that responsibility to me. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope, yellowed with age, her name written in her sister's distinctive handwriting. Why now? Eleanor asked, not reaching for it yet, almost afraid of what it might contain. It's been 30 years. Because of what's in the letter, Jack said. And because of Lily. Eleanor's eyes darted to the little girl, who was now watching the adults with solemn attention. Those familiar eyes. The way she tilted her head, just like Sarah used to. I don't understand, Eleanor said, though a terrible suspicion was beginning to form. Sarah was pregnant when she died, Jack said gently. The baby survived. A little girl who was adopted by a young couple, my wife's cousins. Eleanor felt the room spinning. Are you saying? Lily isn't my biological daughter, Jack confirmed. I adopted her after my wife died, but she was already family to us. Her birth mother was your sister. Lily was looking at Eleanor with new interest. Are you my aunt? She asked, the question innocent but earth-shattering. Eleanor couldn't speak. All these years of isolation, of building walls around herself, of punishing herself for not being there when Sarah needed her. And now, sitting across from her was a piece of her sister, living, breathing proof that something of Sarah had survived. With trembling hands, Eleanor finally took the letter. As she unfolded it, a small photograph fell out, Sarah, visibly pregnant, one hand on her belly, smiling despite the obvious hardship in her eyes. The letter began simply, Ellie, if you're reading this, I'm gone. But something of me remains in this world. Eleanor couldn't continue reading through her tears. She looked up at Jack, who was watching her with compassion, and then at Lily, her niece, Sarah's daughter, who was regarding her with curious innocence. I've spent 30 years punishing myself, Eleanor whispered. Building an empire to prove my worth, to justify choosing ambition over family. And all this time, Jack said gently, there was still family out there. Sarah never blamed you, Eleanor. That's what the rest of the letter says. She was proud of you. She wanted her daughter to know you someday. Eleanor looked at Lily with new eyes. This child, this miracle, was her blood, her family, her second chance. Would you like to read the rest of the letter? Jack asked. Eleanor nodded, wiping her tears. As she read her sister's final words, words of forgiveness, of love, of hope for her unborn child, Eleanor felt something shift inside her. The walls she'd built, the isolation she'd accepted as punishment, began to crumble. When she finished reading, she looked up at Jack and Lily, seeing them truly for the first time, not as strangers who had interrupted her solitary birthday, but as messengers bringing the gift she'd needed most, connection, family, purpose. I wished for a second chance, Eleanor said softly, remembering her birthday candle. I never imagined it would come true like this. Lily reached across the table and placed her small hand over Eleanor's. Does this mean you won't be alone anymore? Eleanor looked at this child, her sister's child, and felt decades of guilt and loneliness begin to lift. No, she said, squeezing Lily's hand gently. "I don't think I will be." As the rain continued outside, the three of them shared more cake, more stories, more tentative plans for the future. Eleanor learned that Jack was struggling financially, that Lily needed specialized education for her dyslexia, that they lived in a small apartment not far from where Eleanor herself had grown up. None of it mattered. What mattered was that after 30 years of isolation, Eleanor Wright, billionaire, titan of industry, loneliest woman in the room, had found her family. And in finding them, she had found herself again. As the evening drew to a close, Eleanor knew with certainty that this birthday marked not just another year of her life, but the first day of a new beginning. A chance to use her resources not just for business or impersonal charity, but to make a real difference in the lives of people who mattered, starting with the little girl who had her sister's eyes. "Happy birthday, Aunt Eleanor," Lily said as they prepared to leave, the name still new but fitting perfectly. Eleanor smiled through her tears. "The happiest," she agreed, and for the first time in 30 years, she meant it. Sometimes, the greatest fortunes have nothing to do with money. Sometimes, the richest people are those who have found their way back to what truly matters. For Eleanor Wright, it took 50 years, billions of dollars, and a stormy night to learn that lesson, but with her newfound family beside her, she finally understood that it's never too late for a second chance. If this story touched your heart, please like and subscribe for more content that reminds us what truly matters in life. Sometimes the greatest wealth isn't what we have, but who we have to share it with.